The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, colleagues. It seems most of attendees we're waiting are already in place, and we will start in a few seconds. Yeah. So let me introduce myself. My name is Sergey Baiko. I'm a head of technical education and certification at Kaspersky. And today is a training session for Kaspersky Next EDR Optimum. We will talk about the course, about the product, and we will. It is a 2 days session. So today we will start with first unit of this course and a part of the second unit, systems management. And tomorrow we will continue with the rest of unit 2 and unit 3. Okay, so let's do the following way. So before we start the course, I'd like to explain a few things about virtual infrastructure. So since you are going to be trainers, so you need to be familiar with the environment, and I will share you some steps how to prepare the environment, because this course, it is the first course we are using KC Cloud Console for virtual labs. So it has some specifics. Let me share what it is. So here you see EDR Optimum class setup guide. We will share it with you as well. So virtual environment consists of 2 virtual machines, so admin and Alex, which we connect to KC Cloud Console, or it's better to call it KC Expert View Console. It's in the cloud, and it requires some ports if you are going to launch virtual machines inside some LAN or behind the NAT. So make sure all the ports are opened. But we, in our environment, will use AWS, which by default has all necessary ports open, and we have configurations for firewall. So in our environment, it works out of the box. Hardware and requirement are quite modest. So we have only 2 virtual machines with 2 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM. So it can be usually actually run on any laptop with no problem. So if you wish, we can share with you download links for virtual machine images, so you can try it on your laptop or on your environment. So you see that it's easy to use. So you as a trainer have you already have registered in kckaspersky.com website. Website kckaspersky.com. Yes, there you prepare your environment, name your workspace, and enter the estimated number of devices which you plan to protect. 100, we specify 100, but actually it is depends on the size of the group. So we suppose that you will not teach more than 100 people. So 100 is okay. But the license which we will share with you allows you to have up to 300 hosts. So it's okay to have 300 as well. Then you need to enter activation code, and after that you need to perform some initial configuration. So skip Quick Start Wizard, then go to Operations Kaspersky Licenses. And you need to enable automatically distribute license key to manage devices. Why do we have it? Because in our labs, students do not activate their environments. So we use virtual administration servers, and the license is distributed from the master server, from the primary server to slave servers. So it's required to enable this option. So once you configured your primary environment, for each time you are going to have a group, you need to create virtual servers for every student you have. So before every training session, you go to your workspace on kaspersky.com. Go to workspace, then click administration server here, settings, and go to administration servers, click new virtual administration server, and name it like student 1, 2, and so on, depending on the number of your students. Then click save, and you will have a lot of virtual administration servers here configured for every student. After that, go to workspace management, click show access control, click grant access, and specify the account of a student. So before every training, you need to ask students to register at kaspersky.com, so their account will appear in our database, and you will be able to edit here. Because if they don't have account in kaspersky.com, you will not be able to choose their IP address here. Specify access level user and click grant. So that's enough to add a user. After that, you go to workspace, click this icon, then select virtual administration server, remove a filter, and add student account, click assign role, specify main administrator, specify scope, virtual administration server student 1, and click assign role. After that, you need to create the same procedure for every student. So every student will have their own virtual server, and they will do the labs without interfering with each other. So in our environment, we already configured for you 20 virtual administration servers, and each of you have their own account, their own workspace at our account. Okay, let's test our communication. Please type in the chat, in the questions box, that everything is clear, and we can proceed to the course. Type something in the questions, so I can understand that you hear me well and understand me well. Okay, one reaction. Okay. Anybody else? Good. Mm-hmm. So it works. Before we start, since this is a trainer session, I will do some trainer tips and tricks alongside the presentation. So I will explain how we want you to describe our solution, how we want to present the material. And this is important because after this training session, you will have to go through a one-to-one interview. And in interview, we have certain requirements and certain guidelines. So if you, I will try to explain our guidelines. So please listen carefully, and it will help you to pass the trainer interview from using the least amount of attempts. So basically, the main idea of our requirement is to give the customers, I mean the students who represent the customers or resellers, how the product, how our technologies can help them in their administrator tasks. So we need to explain the usefulness of a product. We need to explain in which situations, in which scenarios it is useful, how it can help administrators to do their work better, more efficient, and so on. So the course is structured in such a way that it goes through from the basics, from the high-level overview to details. So it is like this for every unit, and every unit, I mean, at least unit 1 is structured in such a way that it has some blocks, and in the beginning of each block, we have some overview. Usually, it is the best practice for a trainer to have, I would say, a bigger picture while he is explaining the material. So in unit 1, it's very easy to follow this bigger picture because we have this incident response scheme where we explain each part of EDR Optimum functionality mapped to this incident response scheme. So you have a bigger picture. You can explain where we are now and what we are going to discuss later. And you will see it in my presentation. So to be clear, every time I'm going to comment or do some remarks, I will say trainer note, explain something, and then say end note, which means I will go through presentation just like a usual trainer. So from time to time, I will make some comments and explain my my speech. So let's test it. Trainer note. Before you start your presentation, it's usually a good practice to introduce yourself. Maybe if you have some experience with Kaspersky products, tell about this experience so students understand that you have some knowledge, you have experience, you are skillful, and so usually if you prove that you are skilled, people listen to you more carefully because they understand you are an expert. And this is nice to have. So I will introduce myself. As I said, my name is Sergey Bayko. I'm head of technical education certification. I have worked in Kaspersky for more than 10 years and worked with most of our B2B products which we have right now and we had even before. So, and trainer note. Let's begin. We're starting with introduction of this course. So this course is about the middle tier of Kaspersky Next product line, which currently consists of 3 tiers: Kaspersky Next EDR Foundations, Kaspersky Next EDR Optimum, and Kaspersky Next XDR Expert. In the end of the year, we will have a 4th tier, which will be called Kaspersky Next XDR Optimum, but this is a separate story. So each Kaspersky Next tier represents some pillar for some audience. So Kaspersky Next EDR Foundations provides basic protection for small companies which don't have too many security personnel. So it provides endpoint protection, root cause analysis, and some security and IT management. So basically, it's mainly for administrators and for really small security teams. When the organization needs more protection, they have resources and they have qualified personnel to deal with more sophisticated threats, they can consider using Kaspersky Next EDR Optimum. Usually, we say that Next EDR Optimum is a solution for small SMB or small enterprise customers with small team of cybersecurity specialists from 1 to 3 persons. So it includes all the features from EDR Foundation's tier, plus it adds EDR automation and response capabilities, vulnerability and patch management, and cloud protection. The third tier, Kaspersky Next XDR Expert, includes all of features from previous tiers, plus adds advanced threat detection, it adds automation and threat hunting tools. This is our tiers. So this course is devoted to Kaspersky Next EDR Optimum, but it covers not all of its features of this tier, but most of them. Operating system deployment, adaptive anomaly control, and encryption are the parts of a product tier, but they are not discussed in this course. So in the beginning, we'll lay out what we will talk about. This course is structured in such a way that we talk about the theory, we explain the basic things and details when we go to the lab. So it is theory plus practice. Materials consists of student guide, lab guide, and presentation. Presentation is for trainer. Students will use also their virtual environments. It is worth saying that you will use our environment in AWS, which consists of integrated access to virtual machines consoles plus lab guide. So when you log into virtual environment, you will see that in the bottom right corner there is a link to lab guide. So it's true for our environment. If you wish, you can launch your environment on your infrastructure when you're going to use these virtual environments to deliver training, but we can also provide it for you. So what is EDR Optimum? Before we talk about EDR Optimum, it is very critical. Trainer note. It is very critical to explain to students that there's a difference between different EDRs in Kaspersky and different concepts of EDR, because in endpoint protection, EDR may refer to product tier and component and concept. So it is critical to explain the difference between them so students understand what you are talking about right now. So before we talked about Next EDR Optimum, and Next EDR Foundations as the product tiers, which include different applications like Kaspersky Endpoint Security, Kaspersky Security Center, or KC Expert View Console, plus Network Agent. EDR Optimum, on the contrast, is a component. It's a part of Kaspersky Endpoint Security for Windows and Linux as well. So it's a part of application. So this slide is about the component which is a part of application Kaspersky Endpoint Security for Windows and trainer node. So we have workstations. And which include which have Kaspersky Endpoint Security installed. Workstations are connected to administration server here. It can be a virtual administration server or on-premises administration server. It doesn't matter. So it provides policies and tasks, and endpoint sends detection events to the console. Then we add a special component called EDR Optimum. And EDR Optimum allows you to use more features and more functionality. For example, when Kaspersky Endpoint Security detects some malicious code, malicious object, EDR Optimum provides additional visibility to administrator. So it sends the telemetry of around the detected object to administration console. Administrator using the administration console can do some preliminary analysis using root cause analysis. It is actually the part of Kaspersky Next EDR foundations. What does mean root cause analysis? Here we talk about the enriched event card, where we see all information about the detection, like parent and grandparent process, child processes. So it's called, how would say, detection graph. Let's say it like this. It also contains information about the artifacts, about network connections, and so on. So administrator can analyze this information and then do some actions. For example, isolate the host, prevent execution of some file, run IUC scan, indicative compromise scan, and do some automated actions. So we will talk in detail about all of these features later after this slide. So all of this is enabled is enabled by utilizing the EDR Optimum component. Without this component, all of this is not available to you. Of course, it should be licensed properly. Oh, let's discuss now then differences in Kaspersky Next EDR foundations and Optimum license tiers. You can use you can use EDR Optimum component in both tiers, foundations and Optimum. But in foundations, EDR Optimum component has fewer features. So it has root cause analysis, and it has file execution prevention. When you go to next EDR Optimum tier, other features are added, like network isolation of device, IOC scan, getting and quarantining the file, starting the process or terminating the process. So all of the features are available. We also support all major operating systems with EDR Optimum, Windows, Linux, and macOS. On all of these platforms, the functionality is the same. So there's a feature parity between different platforms. By default, Kaspersky Endpoint Security for Windows does not include EDR Optimum functionality, so you need to enable it manually. First, you need to enable, for convenience, you need to add a special widget in a dashboard of Kaspersky Security Center console. Add endpoint detection response Optimum component in the properties of Kaspersky Endpoint Security for Windows installation package. By default, it is not enabled. Enable endpoint detection response feature in the policy. And finally, activate the license. So you are able to use EDR Optimum component. Please note, since version 12.7 or 8, the installation package interface was changed. So it is now distributed, split into two different tabs, one tab for workstations, one tab for servers. So when you do the labs, specifically first lab, and you enable EDR Optimum feature in Kaspersky Security for Windows application, please pay attention where you enable this component, because you will need to switch to servers tab and enable this component for servers, because we do our labs on server operating systems, and if you enable this feature for workstations, it will not affect anything. So this is how activation looks like. You just create a regular add key task, specify the proper license, and it will work. So trainer node. This scheme is very important because this scheme allows you to have a bigger picture and talk about the features of EDR Optimum mapped to different stages of incident response cycle. So before we explain a specific part of this unit, we explain the bigger picture, how functionality of Kaspersky maps to our, big story. Okay. And note. Here on the slide, you see the incident response cycle. So it begins with an event which produces the enriched event card. Security specialist analyzes this security event and classifies it, where is it false positive or true positive. If it is a true positive, we need to investigate it, and usually the first step which is performed by a security specialist is containment. What does it mean? It means that we need to reduce the risk of spreading the malware across the network. So it is better to act fast and isolate the host, prevent execution of a file, for example, and quarantine the file which is malicious. So you can do it if there are few people, they can do it simultaneously in parallel, but usually it's a good option to contain the threat as soon as possible. After that, we can investigate whether this threat was spread across the network or not. So we can use IOC scanning and check other computers from the network if there's indicators of compromise exist on all the hosts. After that, if nothing was found, we can make a decision. If the threat was eliminated, if there are no signs of this threat across the network, we can close an incident. If this incident requires eradication, so which means manual moving, restoring normal operations, deleting the unnecessary files or restoring the needed files, we do eradication. And after eradication and recovery, we can close the incident. For containment and for eradication and recovery steps, we have tools in EDR Optimum component. And IOC scanning is also a part of EDR Optimum functionality. So we start with enriched event, which shows you a graph where you see all the processes which are included in detection chain and child process. Detection, enriched event card is explained well in Kaspersky Next Foundations course. So here I will not stop and explain in detail what is it and what it gives you as a security specialist. I will just note that there's a guideline which guides you through the step of incident response from the beginning to recovery and eradication steps. So for less skilled specialists, this guideline is very useful. First response actions, which we discussed, is a containment, and the first part of a containment is network isolation, because first task you need to do is to make sure that the malware doesn't spread across the network. You can do it from the alert card, from enriched event card, using the button. Also from here, you can prevent execution of a file. For example, if there is a malicious file or file related to a malicious object, you can prevent execution of this file. For example, this can happen if on some computers you're not sure that the protection was adequate, or databases were updated, or something else. So it's better to make sure that this file cannot be run by any host on the network, and this can be done using this button. After that, the specific rule will be added to a policy and distributed to hosts across the network. So these are the first steps. How isolation of a device works? You can do it in two ways. First way is to isolate the device from the alert card, from enriched event card. You isolate the specific device, and after that, all network connections from this host or to this host are blocked, except for exclusions. There are some exclusions in Kaspersky endpoint security which are predefined. First of all, it is case and network agent exclusions, so they can communicate with KSC. Case can perform its usual routine. And there are some specific exclusions which are mainly about DHCP or DNS activity. You can configure these exclusions in two different places, depending on how isolation was set. If isolation was set as a consequence, as an outcome of indicator of compromise scan task, so this action is automatic and configured in the task properties, then network exclusions for isolations are configured in a policy. So you can see here DNS and some other exclusions. But since we're talking about isolating the device from the alert, from the event card, this is configured in a different place. So there's a special network isolation task in the properties of the host, so in the tab of the tasks. And if you go to properties of this task, you can see the same network exclusions. So note this is configured on individual host, and if you want to isolate the device with specific exclusions, you need to configure it on a specific host. So two different places, two different scenarios, and two different ways you are configuring the exclusions for network isolation. But by default, network isolation properties in policy and in a task, they are the same. So if you're not satisfied with default exclusions, you can add another exclusion using option button from profile, which gives you an option to choose from predefined exclusions like DNS client, like DHCP, which are enabled by default. You can enable also Active Directory exclusions, and also it's not shown here, but there's also an RDP protocol. So by default, it is disabled. And if you are going to use, if you're going to respond to incident using RDP, for example, do something remotely, you need to enable RDP. And after that, it will be applied to host. If you're not satisfied with predefined profiles, you can add your custom rule and specify here the usual firewall rules. I mean parameters like inbound, outbound, the type of a protocol, port, and optionally applications which will be communicating using this network socket. By default, network isolation is limited by 8 hours, which means after 8 hours, network isolation will be automatically disabled. Usually, this period of time is enough for security specialists to perform all the necessary actions, to respond to a friend, to do eradication and recovery, and it is safe to set this limit to 8 hours. But if, for example, the incident happened Friday night and the security specialists are not working on a weekend, it means that on a Saturday day, the isolation will be automatically disabled and without any response actions. So in this case, it is better to adjust this limit and increase it, for example, to 2 days, just to be safe on the weekend. It is configured into places in a policy and network isolation tasks inside the Kaspersky endpoint security properties. Again, it depends on the scenario. If network isolation happened as a result of IOC scan task, it is a policy. If network isolation is manually enabled by the security administrator in enriched event properties, then it is configured in network isolation task. Next, containment step is preventing execution. Prevent execution button enables specific rule in Kaspersky endpoint security policy. You need to make sure that prevention execution is enabled in the policy, and you will see where there will be a rule which blocks specific file from running. By default, execution prevention works only with files which have a checksum. And checksums are calculated for executable files only from the alert card. So you cannot prevent execution of non-executable file, obviously. Next, the last step which we consider here in containment phase is quarantining the file. Again, it can be done from the enriched event card. Move file to quarantine means that the file on the host will be moved from the file system to special encrypted Kaspersky endpoint security storage, where it will be stored safely, and you can get this file later for analysis. For non-executable files, move to quarantine option is not enabled because no MD5 checksum is calculated. But if you want to still quarantine some non-executable file, you can do it. You need to create a quarantine file task or get file task, add a file by its full path or path and checksum, and the task will get file will copy the file to quarantine, leaving the original file in place. Quarantine file means that the file will be moved from the original location to Kaspersky endpoint security storage, and user will not be able to launch it. So this is the difference between get file and quarantine file. You can find quarantined and all files from the Kaspersky endpoint security storage in specific repository in operations, repositories, quarantine. You can select a file, then you can remove it from the storage, you can download it for analysis, so do whatever you want. So we're moving to IOC scanning. IOC scanning is a task which helps you to understand if there are signs of malicious activity on other network hosts. So if IOC scan task didn't find anything, it is okay. But if it is found something, then you need to investigate this event from the beginning, start analysis, then go through containment, and so on. So repeat the process. So how we do it? You go to enriched event card. You switch to all alert events. And from this tab, you can create IOC scan task. So you just select the needed files. needed files and create IOC scan task. And automatically you will get to the properties of this task where you can configure some parameters. So for example, if you want to detect several executable files, you need to decide where you want to get an alert if any of this file is detected on a host, or all of these files are detected on the host. So and or logical clause is available here. Also, the IOC scan task contains response actions, automatic response actions. We have 3 of them here. It is isolate the device, run scans of critical areas, and move file to quarantine and delete object. Also, there's a button called Export IOC collection, which exports an XML file in OpenIOC format, so you can keep track of intelligence data for your organization. By default, IOC scan task is yes, by default, IOC scan task is run for critical areas, which means download folders for all users and temporary folders of operating system. So this is important to know. All of this we discussed earlier. So we have description and logical export button and response actions we can discuss in a previous slide. So after you created IOC scan task, it appears in the tasks section. The scope of the task is the managed group where the host is located. So if you want to enable this scanning for all the hosts, you need to create a separate IOC scan task manually. It runs only once after it was created. And yes, please note, if you create IOC scan task several times, you will have several IOC scan tasks here in the tasks section. So with time, it grows larger and larger, so it makes sense to delete them after they were performed. So if you're not satisfied either with the scope of the default scan task or with location of, scope of devices or location of areas where IOC will be searched for, you can create IOC scan task manually. So go to task creation wizard, select IOC scan task, and then you have the same parameters as in IOC scan task from the enriched event card. So you can click button redefine IOC files and import IOC in XML, OpenIOC XML file to this task. So to remind you, this file can be achieved from the enriched event card using the export IOC collection button. So you will receive it in XML format, and you can open it. You can import it here. You can also specify actions which will be performed if a detection occurs using this IOC scan task. It is isolate the device, run critical area scan, and move file to quarantine. So the same as in IOC scan task from the enriched event card. But there is also advanced tab here in IOC scan task, where you can configure additional parameters. For example, IOC documents means that you can redefine the location, the areas, file areas where IOC will be searched for. By default, it is temp folders and download folders. You can click add, and add another location, for example, system drive or other locations. There's also possibility to specify log files where specific IOC will be searched for. So as you may know, IOC allows you to use Windows event logs to search for specific events. And this can be used in IOC scan task as well. By default, Kaspersky Endpoint Security searches for events in three system logs. It is application, system, and security. You can add more if you wish and search in extended channels. Scan results. You can get information about scan results in IOC scan task properties. Go to application settings, click IOC scan results, and if IOC was detected on a specific device, you will see IOC detected for a specific host. Click this link and you will see what was detected. Click match it, and you will get the information about which IOC was matched on the host. So we are moving to the last phase of incident response cycle. It's eradication and recovery. Here we have the following tools. We have a terminate process task. By default, it applies to executable files. You need to specify a full path, and this will terminate the process. This helps, for example, if for some reason the Kaspersky Endpoint Security for Windows didn't terminate the process manually, automatically, or you want to terminate the parent process or some child process which are not malicious from the point of view of Kaspersky Endpoint Security, but they are related to the attack. Delete file. So it's obvious this task deletes the files from the storage, and you need to specify just full path, and that's all. It's very simple. Start process. This is actually a very powerful command. So you can not only run specific tool, or like here an example, tool to restore normal operation of DLLs, which may be corrupted. You can run your own scripts. You can run some Windows commands using Windows default tools. So actually it's quite powerful for response, for recovery, even for administrative tasks. And finally, as a part of recovery, you need to unblock the isolation of a host. Of course, you can wait for 8 hours, but if the incident was closed earlier, it makes sense to restore normal operations and remove isolation. To get information about isolated devices, you go to tags and see the devices which network isolated from network tag was assigned. So in the devices, you will see a selection which contains all the devices which have this tag set. Please note, just removing the tag doesn't disable isolation. So you need to follow the right procedure. It is done in the properties of a device. So you go to a device, then go to applications, select Kaspersky Endpoint Security for Windows, and go to implementation response and click wait. 55.
We have some little trouble with computer. Sergey switched off
It's okay.
and try to connect. Just wait for a few minutes, please.
Guys, do you hear me? Okay. So, sorry for little technical issues. Let's proceed. So, as I said before, to remove isolation, you need to go to, let's see, you need to go to host properties, and then go to Kaspersky Endpoint Security and go to detection and response section. And from this section, you can disable network isolation of a host. This also can be done from the enriched event card. So just go to enriched event and click remove isolation. So that's all. I will now switch to the questions window and try to answer your questions. So that's all from my side. I will answer the questions, and when we have a small coffee break, after this coffee break, Valentin will continue the course with his part of presentation. So let's now move to questions. First question, yeah, documents, where is this document available so that I can open it locally? All the documents will be sent to you except for PowerPoint slides. PowerPoint slides we share after you pass the interview stage. Several answers already. Yeah, now. You said the quarantine will move the file from original folder to quarantine folder. The file is not in original location. Get file will copy the file. So why it said move copy to quarantine? I would say it's technical documentators, tech writers' way to explain to users that what is quarantine and what is get file, because they say that this is move file to copy file to quarantine and delete original location in interface, which actually means this is a quarantine. But to explain it
Does everybody can connect to the labs? Is it available for everybody? So we are going to end to finish today's section, and we will prolong tomorrow. We will continue tomorrow, and as I said before, send emails if you have questions. And thank you for your. Thank you, and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.